Hey TSP participants. As SSD teachers, we know that our classes and our students are unique, so it can be difficult to find comparisons at all levels. Most of us already have to meet with PLCs or with data teams, so we wanted to share a comparative data tool that could be useful to you. This data team form follows the PDSA process. The idea is that you would come to your data team like you already do, with your individual class or your student-specific data and with this form. This form would guide you through the critical questions and prompts that help us study our data with our team, as well as supporting that PDSA Plan, Do, Study, Act process. By using this form, we can highlight what's working for some students, what's working for some classes, and what might not be working. For example, I could use this form to guide my data team discussion and compare data findings with my team. First, I want to describe my group of students and my measure. So let's say I'm using a reading group. I want to describe my students, and I want to state whether or not they're a positive response, so at that trend or goal line, mixed response, or insufficient, which means they're below that trend line or goal line. And if the data being referred to doesn't have a trend line, that's okay too. You should just be able to speak to whether or not students are making progress. Next, I move on to my plan. I ask myself if I'm following my plan with fidelity and if I've collected my weekly data. Then I move on to my research-based intervention. So this is my do, where I would list that research-based intervention. So let's say, for example, it might be SIPs and any high-yield instructional strategy that I'm using. So let's say I'm using classifying strategy this week. Next, I would move on to my study. This is where my team and I would analyze the data and make any inferences together. So what is the data telling us? The idea would be that another participant in the data team would have a reading group on a similar level or be using similar strategies that I am. They can share their data in their research-based intervention and we can begin to compare. What is it telling us? Is the program working for this group or for this student? Is this strategy working? Why or why not? Make sure we're talking about each response, so those students who are seeing a positive response for, a mixed response for, and an insufficient response for. Next, we move on to our act. This is where we record any adjustments that we'll be making moving forward. And then we want to make sure we're adding a new intervention line to our graph to let us know that we made some changes this time around.